Raphinha's Barcelona career is weird. If you would have asked Barcelona fans 1 year ago whether they would have preferred to sell Raphinha instead of Ousmane Dembélé, weirdly enough, a lot of fans would have said yes. Back then, Ousmane Dembélé had been one of Barcelona's star players in the 22-23 season, while Raphinha had been good, but not as impactful as Dembélé had been. Dembélé might have been inconsistent, but when he played well, he was astonishing. Raphinha just never seemed to have the same kind of spark. Fast forward to now, I think a lot of fans are very happy that Barcelona decided to keep Raphinha back then. By now, Dembélé is still that same inconsistent player at PSG that he was at Barcelona, while Raphinha has suddenly become one of Barcelona's most crucial players. How did that change suddenly happen overnight? Well, Hansi Flick. So in this video, we have to take a look at how exactly he managed to turn Raphinha into this kind of player. Let's just get right to it. Okay, before we start hailing Hansi Flick for his brilliance, it might be good to know why Raphinha wasn't that good under Xavi. In the 22-23 season, Xavi mainly used Raphinha at right wing, in the same role that Ousmane Dembélé played in. And what was the problem for Raphinha in that position? It's not necessarily the fact that he was playing at right wing, it's the lack of freedom that he had. Xavi wanted him to really stick to that right wing and start taking players on from there. Raphinha is capable of doing that, sure, but frankly that role was much more perfect for someone like Ousmane Dembélé. It was even the ideal role for Ousmane Dembélé, which is why he was considered one of the best players in the 22-23 season. Raphinha didn't get that much playing time either compared to now, which was also because of Dembélé, who just fitted Xavi's tactics better. But then Dembélé left Barcelona, so that seemed like the moment for Raphinha to start having more minutes in that right wing role. Well, as you know, someone else suddenly appeared and became an even better right winger at 16 years of age than Ousmane Dembélé had ever been. In the whole first half of the 23-24 season, Raphinha was either on the bench or he played while Lamine Yamal was getting rested. It didn't look like Raphinha was ever really going to make his mark at Barcelona. But before you're going to criticize Xavi in the comments, we do have to give him some credit for what happens in the final few months of the season. In March, Xavi realized that he had to get more out of Raphinha, and he tried him out at left wing. Now, left wing, right wing, the actual position doesn't matter. What matters is that Raphinha had more freedom in this role. Raphinha is just that kind of player, he's dynamic, and you need to give him that freedom to get the best out of him. In those final few months, Raphinha finally played to his potential at Barcelona, and if it wasn't for Araujo getting a red card in that game against PSG, who knows what kind of season Barcelona would have had, with Raphinha being one of their cornerstone players. So the funny thing is that even before Flick arrived at Barcelona, Xavi showed what the key to unlocking his potential was. It's all about giving him that freedom to move. If you think back about his time at Leeds, he actually played at right wing there, but he did so way better than he did at Barcelona. That was also probably because he had way more freedom to roam. His manager at Leeds was Marcelo Bielsa. He is known for having teams with very fluent attacking football. He needs to have attackers who are dynamic and make a lot of runs. Raphinha was perfect for him. So, conclusion, it's not about the specific position that Raphinha plays in. He can play it to left, he can play it to right, and he can play as an attacking midfielder too. What it's about is giving him the license to roam. And this summer, Barcelona got Hansi Flick, who is known for having a very attacking and dynamic style of play, just like Marcelo Bielsa. Hansi Flick now usually plays Raphinha at left wing, but again, you can put him in any position in attack when he's got the right role. Hansi Flick's football is even that dynamic that you'll often see Raphinha play everywhere over the course of a game. It's really a case of the right player under the right coach. Hansi Flick needs attackers who make a lot of runs all game long, and Raphinha is simply that player. But there's even more to it, because if you look at some crucial elements in Hansi Flick's football, you see that Raphinha actually ticks the box for everything. For example, Barcelona these days often put a lot of high pressure on the defense of the opponents. But for that strategy to work, you need players who are determined enough to do so all game long. And frankly, not every attacker is capable of doing that. As you probably already know though, Raphinha does match that profile. Even defensively, he is a big help for Barcelona. Hansi Flick really was the right manager for him. And right now, we've not even talked about Raphinha's biggest asset. I mean, Raphinha might very well be one of your favorite players as a Barcelona fan right now. But why is that? Because of his playing style? If we're being honest, it's all about his mentality. Raphinha is one of Barcelona's captains, not because he's been at Barcelona for a long time or because of his name, simply because of his personality. He's really just a warrior in some way. He only cares about doing everything in his power to make sure Barcelona win. He protects the other players. If someone fouls Lamine Yamal, for example, he will be the first one to step up for him, together with Gavi maybe. He doesn't care about praise, he doesn't care about provoking his haters, he doesn't care about living lavishly, he only cares about helping Barcelona win. And you know what's funny? That's exactly the mindset that Hansi Flick as manager has too. because not all managers are that humble. Jose Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, even Luis Enrique was more cocky than Hansi Flick is. Hansi Flick is really grounded, so it's perfect to see Raphinha as one of the captains of his team. On top of that, there is another underrated reason as to why Raphinha has suddenly exploded like this. But what is it? Well, it's simple. If the player next to you becomes better, then so do you. The real power of Hansi Flick is that he can turn teams into a collective machine. He has not just transformed Raphinha, he has really just transformed all of Barcelona. It is a team now that really looks like a swarm of players impossible to defend against in attack. Robert Lewandowski, he was okay under Xavi, mediocre at moments, but now he has kind of become his old self again, simply because of Hansi Flick's fluent playing style. The same goes for Lamine Yamal. He might have been really good last season too, but now he's performing at an even higher level. Week in, week out, he is doing things that simply are not normal anymore. To be honest, if Lamine Yamal would be 25 right now, I think people would be calling him the best player in the world and he'd be getting Ballon d'Or shouts. He would be right next to Vinicius in that conversation. But I guess some people are just careful to not give him that kind of praise, just because he's that young, which is probably a good thing. Even defensively, with what we said about Raphinha having the right mindset to always keep on putting pressure, that goes for Lamine Yamal too. So, long story short, Hansi Flick has just made Barcelona better in general, and because every player is better now, they kind of elevate each other's level. I mean, the better Lamine Yamal is, the more chances he will create, and the more chances Lewandowski and Raphinha can finish. Yeah, times are good for Barcelona right now, and with Raphinha, they finally have their Neymar replacement at left wing. Wait, hold on there. Neymar replacement? Obviously, Raphinha has been really good up till now, but some people are taking it too far. Raphinha is a great player, but he will never become a Neymar level player. To understand why, we simply have to look at their profiles. These two are just different kind of players really. Raphinha is way more dynamic, he's all about making a lot of runs and being dangerous through link-up play and attack. He also needs a fully functioning team in order to play well. So he is great in a Hansi Flick team, but by no means at all can you compare him to Neymar. There is only one Neymar level player at Barcelona right now, and that is Lamine Yamal. He's got a similar profile too, he's a playmaker from the wing who loves to dribble. Raphinha simply doesn't have the individual class to be that decisive on his own for a team. Games where Raphinha stands out are usually games where the whole team is really great. Think about the games against PSG last season and Valladolid this season. Raphinha cannot decide a match with one individual flash of brilliance, or at least not in the way that Neymar or Lamine Yamal do it. Lamine Yamal can suddenly, out of the blue, turn a game around. Think about his goal against Monaco, for example. But I didn't mean to hate on Raphinha in any way, all I'm saying is, we should realize what his limitations are and what exactly he means for this Barcelona team. He's not one of the best 10 players in the world, he's just a perfect attacker to have for Hansi Flick. If you had to make the comparison with Hansi Flick's Bayern Munich team, he is actually really comparable to Serge Gnabry. He is also a really dynamic attacker, his link-up play is really good, and his shots from distance are vicious. Those are all qualities that Raphinha has as well. And if you could have signed Serge Gnabry for Barcelona back in 2020, you probably wouldn't have hesitated for a single moment. That goes to show that Raphinha is a really well-fitted player at Barcelona, especially under Hansi Flick. And lastly, we have to take a look at what Raphinha can mean for Barcelona in the further future. He is 27 right now, so he probably won't really decline in quality in the next 5 years. If you see how well he fits Hansi Flick's system, he could very well become a cornerstone player in the Hansi Flick era. And about the Hansi Flick era, with the way that Barcelona has been playing thus far, I don't see Hansi Flick getting sacked very soon. So my guess would be that he will probably stay at Barcelona until 2027 or 2028 maybe. Managers at Barcelona usually don't last for more than 3 or 4 years due to the amount of pressure, regardless of how successful they are. In those years, we can only dream of what Barcelona could possibly all accomplish. The signs are looking very bright for now, that's for sure. And to come back onto Raphinha, if you know that he's 27 right now, he might very well be about to enter his prime, right at the moment that he's playing under the right manager as well. So things are really looking great for Raphinha. I mean, what could the worst case scenario even be? He could start having injury problems, which seems highly unlikely now that Hansi Flick is at Barcelona. Or Raphinha could lose his place to someone else who also suits his role, but simply plays better than him. You never know. And then there's also the best case scenario. I might have underestimated Raphinha when comparing him to Neymar, and maybe he scores 20 goals in La Liga this season. I mean, at his current rates, he never will be as complete as Neymar or his idol Ronaldinho, but in terms of stats, Raphinha could become a very impressive player under Hansi Flick in the coming years. The bottom line is that Raphinha is just the perfect player for Hansi Flick at Barcelona, and in terms of age, he will probably enter his prime right in the Hansi Flick era. The best for Raphinha is probably yet to come. So that was it for today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share your own opinion on Raphinha in the comments down below. Of course, Força Raphinha, and have a good day.